Now, in other news, New Zealand's 53rd Parliament formally opens. We have Greg, but there's no Filipinos there. Greg Besa from our EBC New Zealand Bureau has that news. Greg, tell us more.
The New Zealand's 53rd Parliament was officially opened on 25th November, following the general election on 17th October, which resulted to a historic electoral victory of Labour Party, the political party of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern. From this date, it started that new 3-year parliamentary term of elected and listed 120 members of Parliament. During the opening ceremony on 25th November, which was called Commission Opening, the 120 members of Parliament, both elected and listed, took their oath of allegiance to the sovereign or affirmation of allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth as the head of state in concurrence to legislative requirement. Though reciting the oath of allegiance or affirmation can only be done in English or Maori, the New Zealand indigenous language, other members of Parliament repeated such in 10 other languages which reflected their ethnic origins. Many of them swore their oath on the Bible, while others did it on other written documents they considered important to them. Due to COVID-19 concerns, members of Parliament swore their oaths either individually or in pair. On the same occasion, the Right Honourable Trevor Mallard was re-elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives of New Zealand, who in turn expressed his gratitude to the Prime Minister and his colleagues and was looking forward to enacting priority bills related to COVID-19, housing and economic recovery, among others.
It's an honour and a privilege to be re-elected, and for me it was very special that it was unanimous, that all parties in Parliament were supportive. Having the trust of the Prime Minister is very good, but having the support of the Leader of the Opposition, I think sort of indicates that I've done an even-handed job in the last Parliament. For this Parliament, I think will be the continuing to deal with COVID, which I think we've dealt with very well as a country, as a team of 5 million, led by the Prime Minister, but the Parliament has been very supportive. I think after that, issues of poverty and housing is where there's going to be a lot of focus. The cost of new houses, the availability of rental houses and state housing. I think there'll be a lot of focus on that.
Having a significant number of gender, ethnic and indigenous representations, the composition of 53rd Parliament is considered as the most diverse ever in the history of New Zealand's legislative body. However, despite the wide-ranging inclusiveness of the new Parliament, the strong and growing population of Filipino community in New Zealand expressed their frustration and dismay due to non-inclusion of a member of Parliament with Filipino background, unlike the previous Parliament, where Paulo Garcia, the first member of Parliament of Filipino descent, was a part of.
We are, on one hand, very proud that we had 4 Filipino Kiwi candidates running for office. Paulo Garcia, the National Party, Mr. Romy Udana, and Monina Hernandez for the Labour Party, and the new Tea Party fielding Ms. Willa Bernardo. Well, unfortunately, they did not make it. Well, what should we do? How can the Filipino community best assure itself of having our own Member of Parliament in New Zealand? Of course, the embassy cannot lobby for a particular party, let alone a particular candidate. We're very proud that we had Paulo Garcia making history as the first Filipino MP. But what we can say, and what the embassy has been saying, is that we are encouraging Filipino Kiwis to register to vote, and to join a political party according to your convictions and be very active in that party. So some have been saying, you know, the Filipino vote should be very well reflected in having a Filipino candidate. Well, again, I'm very happy that Filipinos have made themselves felt, at least through their support for respective Filipino candidates and for the parties of their choice.
I think it's very disheartening to see that there's no MP of Filipino descent in the upcoming parliament. The House of Representatives is supposed to be a reflection of New Zealand society in general, and without any Filipino representation there, it's lacking because there's no one there to be a voice for the Filipino community in New Zealand. But I think that as long as we Filipinos continue to be vocal about the issues that matter to us and continue to engage with our local MPs, I believe that we can still have the issues that affect us be represented in policymaking.
On the other hand, Member of Parliament Honorable Simon Bridges promised to help representing the concerns of the Filipino community in Parliament as he commended the continuing crucial roles of Filipinos in nation building. Other than working with Paulo Garcia during the last Parliament, he also took pride of his 2 visits to the Philippines, recent of which was in January 2019, together with other members of the previous Parliament.
I'm sad that I don't have my friend and colleague Paulo Garcia, but of course I'm back as Member of Parliament for Tauranga. There's a lot to look forward to this term in Parliament. I'm looking forward to working hard for the people of Tauranga. I want to keep my commitment and my friendship with Pinoys around New Zealand and be a good representative in Paulo's absence, helping you along with other national MPs. You are so valued back in New Zealand, the work you do. You provide so much for us, whether it's on our farms, in construction, in the healthcare sector, in IT. And I want to remain a really good friend of the Filipino community throughout this 3-year Parliament.
After the opening ceremony on 25th November, another ceremony called State Opening was held at Parliament the next day. This was attended, along with members of Parliament, by distinguished guests and prominent members from public and private sectors, led by the Governor-General of New Zealand. From Parliament grounds, reporting for Eagle News New Zealand Bureau, this is Greg Bessa. We live in interesting times.